Hello, I'm Mike Buchanan, leader of the political party Justice for Men and Boys and the Women Who Love Them. It's my pleasure to be interviewing today Chris Votey, an American author and the man behind the websites Boys and Men's Issues and Concrete Desk Publishing. With the able assistance of his colleague Vernon Meigs, Chris has been central to setting up the online platform for this conference, a task which has taken up a lot of his time in recent months. Starting in 2013, after suffering a life-changing injury that left him disabled, Chris began making videos for his YouTube channel, discussing news and men's issues. In 2016, he met Modern Medusa and became a team on YouTube doing The Macho Show. Together, they launched the Lovely Ladies of Men's Issues calendar for both 2018 and 2020. At the request of a friend, he published the controversial and later banned book, How to Destroy a Woman Now, a satire on the controversial and banned book, How to Destroy a Man Now. Chris is currently working on the book series Men's and Boys Issues Handbook, which he hopes will help the movement as well as becoming a resource book for those unaware of men's issues. He's also the co-creator of the men's magazine with Catherine MacLean, dedicated to praising masculinity. He's an active member of Regarding Men, interviewing the group's creators on his YouTube channel. Last year, he appeared in his first ICMI as a speaker, and this year he became one of the organizers for ICMI. Chris is responsible for hosting in-person ICMIs in North America. Chris, finally, a very warm welcome.
It has been quite the journey to get here, so I'm excited.
Okay, me too. Chris, let's start at the beginning. What was your red pill moment?
My red pill moment actually happened when I was about 8 years old. And my parents bought me sandals to wear to school, and I refused. I didn't want to wear sandals to school. The children would make fun of me. But my parents were like, oh, no one will make fun of you. But sure enough, the children made fun of me. During my first recess, early morning recess, I was right outside my classroom and a girl started in, ha ha, you're wearing girl shoes. Well, she was wearing tennis shoes. And if I'm wearing girl shoes, then by right, she's wearing boy shoes. So I said, well, then you're wearing boy shoes. The teacher heard that, rushed right out and told me, get back into the classroom. And she asked me, why did you say she was wearing boy shoes? Well, she said I was wearing girl shoes. Oh, no, you don't say that about a female. It doesn't matter that the female started it. It doesn't matter that she made this a gender issue to start with. I, as a boy, do not say that to a girl, and I got written up for that. Now, to be fair, I couldn't truly articulate what I experienced at that time. It took years later for me to understand, but I just knew at that point that boys and girls, men and women are always treated differently in society and that girls are protected. And this is 1988, before feminism really took hold in the education system, but it was there. But I remember a couple of months later during summer break, I had said out loud with my father present, I wish I was a girl. Now, today, if I had said that, I'm sure my parents would have put me on puberty blockers because that's the thing to do. So I'm glad I didn't live today. But even though I couldn't fully articulate what I had noticed, there was this observation I'd made that girls got treated better. I want to get treated better, so I want to be a girl.
Right. Interesting. Chris, as the new head of in-person North American ICMIs, you are planning for the next such event to be held next year, but you've moved it back to 2023. Why the change, and what do you hope to accomplish in your new role?
Well, first off, I want to thank Mike Buchanan for entrusting me to such an awesome responsibility. And the decision to move it back a year was one of the hardest I made because, I mean, I'd been working months finding a venue. I'd raised the money for a down payment. We were in the contract signing phase. I was just days away of putting my Herbie Hancock on the dotted line, and I walked away. And the reason I did is I looked at, months ago when I started this, our economic situation in the United States was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. But now it's a disaster. Like just down the street from me, the gas is $3.77 a gallon. And the last time I saw it this bad was during the Obama administration. So if we're spending more money on gas, that means that we have less available money overall. My hopes for ICMI in 2023 is that we become more public. We get ourselves out there more. Now, we always live in the fear that one day feminists are going to come out of the woodwork and really try to come after us doing this conference. We've been fortunate so far that they haven't, but we can't live in that fear. We can't be Damascus with the sword above our head, fearing that if we move, it will kill us. We've got to take the chance and do it, because we're not really ever going to make any serious headway until we really get out there and really try to get to the people. Another aspect that I really want to try to push for is the culture of the men's movement. Now, we have a lot of people doing a lot of amazing things. You know, there are people who are doing videos, there are people who are doing projects, but I think one thing that we're really lacking is culture. And one of the things I was trying to push for in 2022 is to bring the musicians out. There are a lot of people who play musical instruments. It's like, let's have a concert for men's issues. And this is something that I'm still going to push for 2023, but I'm looking to build upon the culture of the men's movement.
And it wasn't very long ago I discovered for the first time, that Paul Elam is a guitar player. So I look forward to him. But perhaps he'll do a Pink Floyd cover version of something. Who knows? Who knows? Chris, for the audience, I think you made the right decision about next year. I think you could have lost your shirt on that if we hadn't had sufficient numbers. So I think you made the right decision, and I know it was a tough one. It was a very tough one for you.
I was back and forth for days on that. There was some days like, no, I'm going to do it, and other days like, I really shouldn't. So it was not an easy decision at all.
Yeah, yeah. Chris, would you like to tell us about your planned book series?
Ooh, something you mentioned, ICMI has taken a bit of time. It's taken a lot of hours, and I kind of put my book series on hold, but I think about it every day. I'm always collecting articles for it. I have over 15,000 resources that I'm going to be putting into this book series. And we're talking about articles, academic papers, books, interviews, videos people have done. And the basic idea is actually something I had when I first joined the movement, but I never felt like I was the one to do it. It was like, I'm nobody. Who would want to read a book by a nobody? But now I'm like, of course, I'm the person to write it. I have to write it. It is my destiny. I wish I realized it back then. The book series actually builds off of people like Warren Farrell and Kevin Jobet, and William Collins. I mean, they have done amazing work with their books, but I want to take it to the next level. But I do acknowledge that they are kind of my precursors. I want to address male issues, but I want to link how I came to the conclusions that I do. Not just mention where I got them. I want to give you a web link. So if you disagree with me, you can go out and find where I got it and read it and email me and say, hey, you got this wrong for this reason. And if I got it wrong, I'll update it. Now, obviously, that's easy to do with an ebook, a physical print book, not so much. Would have to release a new version over time. So this book is going to help the men's movement in twofold. One, those of us within the movement, we get asked all the time to provide proof of the things that we're saying. And most often than not, we don't know where this stuff is, not readily available. So it's my hope that these books will give you the ammunition you need to drive home your point. That a feminist is like, well, show me proof that this is happening. Like, bam, here's an article, here's another article, here's another article. I want you to be on fire in a conversation. Now, it doesn't mean that a feminist will read these things, but the best way to shut her up is to say, I'm prepared to take this to the next level. Are you? The second thing I hope it accomplishes is that there's those who are the feminists, there's those of us who are the men's activists, but the majority of people are kind of in the between. They're in the limbo. They don't really know what's going on. Now, certainly they're more influenced by feminism because that's who has the power right now. So it's my hope of getting the book out to them so they can get a very good introduction to what's really going on. And it kind of is more of a starter set for the men's movement rather than really getting to the deep, deep issues for the rest of us. And I hope eventually I do take the book series into that kind of depth. But for right now, it's more of a starter set. Now, my first book, I was going to make it all about culture, but right now I'm focusing on issues that affect boys, both their childhood and their education.
Okay, you're aware, I think, Chris, that I published William Collins's The Empathy Gap, a book which has, I think, over 1,000 hyperlinks. That's it.
Yes, it does.
It's and it's selling for, I think it's something like $6 or $5 on Amazon. It's an absolute, it's an astonishing book. But most of the references are to, most of the links are to British sites and British papers and so on. So I suspect yours will have more North American links and I suppose information than William's book.
That is a very good assessment. Yes, it will have a lot more influence to North America, although I do use William Collins' book as a resource, and I will try to include some of the information he's put in there. But also one of my goals is to be as worldwide as possible. Now, I'm just one man, and 15,000 resources is a lot to go through. But for instance, one of the things I included in my book about non-custodial abduction is bachi bazai, which is a custom in Arab countries of kidnapping boys, forcing them to wear dresses and dance around, and then get raped by soldiers. So I do try to get as much world information as I can into this book. But yeah, because I'm from North America, it's going to have a lot more information related to America.
Chris, what's the key men's rights issue that you focus on?
The key issue, I mean, there's a lot of issues that I give a lot of attention to, but probably the one that I put at the top actually was inspired from Warren Farrell's The Boy Crisis, and it's the concept of male emancipation. Now, whether you agree with it or not, women had their emancipation. Women are allowed to be whoever they want in society today. There's no question. While there's some dispute about them being stay-at-home mothers, it's still perfectly allowed. They can also be the career woman. They can go on OnlyFans. They can do just about everything. And more importantly, they're a protected class. You're not allowed to say that a woman can and cannot do something. Men, however, we're still expected to be the 1950s man. Get married young, get into a corporate job, make lots of money, dedicate everything to raising our family. And what is our reward for this? Most likely to end in divorce, most likely not to see our children. Now, this is a natural state for men. This is what we want to do. But the problem is why should we do it? If the end result is going to be that our life is going to be taken away from us, that everything that we put into our life is no longer important, no longer what we want, it's what everyone else wants us. It's not worth it. And I think that we need to get creative. We need to get smart about the current situation we're in and start doing for ourselves. Yeah, it'd be great to get married young, but we need to say what's important for me, not what's important for this woman over here, not what's going to be important for the children we could have. I should pursue the career I want. I should focus on my happiness first. I should make the best version of me possible. Now, that's not to say that getting married is a bad thing. If you want to do that, great, have at it. But I recommend making yourself the best version of yourself first before you bring someone else in, and ask them, what can you do for me that I can't already do for myself? And if the answer is nothing, I recommend don't doing anything with her.
But isn't it a numbers problem, Chris, that enough men are willing to be, self-sacrificing, and more of them, over time? So I don't actually see much, as much as we might hope. I mean, there's MGTOW, of course, and I'm a big supporter of MGTOWs. But it just seems to me it's a numbers game to an extent.
It is a numbers game, and it's hard to fight nature. It's hard to fight our innate desires. But we're kind of at a crossroads of evolution because of things like Bumble, and I really blame Bumble for really starting this. The idea that, and it's been a long time coming, don't get me wrong, but Bumble was really the catalyst of women should only focus on the top 20% of men, but all men, we do need to walk away. Now, this isn't exactly MGTOW, although it is very similar. I think that is a symptom of a much larger problem, but a lot of MGTOW men are in their situation because they tried to play the system and lost. And I have a lot of respect for the MGTOW, don't get me wrong, but we need to start teaching boys that you do not base your life on a woman. You base your life on your own happiness. You make yourself happy first, and if you desire to be in a relationship, they will come to you. We need, as a gender, to walk away from women, because if we walk away, the women will follow. Instead of sacrificing ourselves in hopes that we get their attention, we say, you know what? I don't want to do with this. And that's actually starting to happen right now. We are seeing that the average age of male virginity reaching the high 20s, like 28-year-olds who are still virgins because they're not interested in sex. They're not interested in relationships. They grew up seeing their parents going through a divorce and men treating badly in family court. Less people are dating, less people are engaging each other. It's starting to happen.
I don't know. I can't speak for the viewers, of course, but I've never heard of Bumble. Chris, so could you perhaps just explain what that is?
Bumble was a dating app created by feminists for the sole purpose of, oh, it's so oppressive that men get to contact women first on dating apps. So they flipped the script and said, well, on this dating app, women get to contact men first. Men cannot contact women first.
Right.
To give more power to women. Now, the problem this created, though, is women don't want to be approached first. They want men to approach them. But funny enough, one of the sites I used to use was OkCupid. I've met a lot of women from OkCupid, but they decided that the Bumble approach was the best approach. So they actually changed how it is that you contact each other. You both have to like each other before you can message each other. Destroyed OkCupid. Because I mean, I don't exactly look good on paper, but I can use my words in creative ways that gets me a second look. But if I can't do that, then I don't get that much attention.
Okay, thank you for that. Chris, can you tell us about your magazines?
So the magazine was basically the next step from the calendars. The calendars was kind of like a interesting idea that we toyed around with, and was like, well, let's actually do this because there's a lot of great women out there. But doing the calendars is challenging for a number of reasons, because trying to get 12 women to do it, at best we could always get 8, but getting the last 4 was always the greatest of challenges. And then, of course, a calendar is only really useful for the year that it's in. There's no reason to buy a calendar that's no longer for the year. So we wanted to do something more and be creative. So we started the magazine. Now with the magazine, we have however many photos as necessary, but we get to do articles. And a point that I made on the first issue in the editor's notes, which I write, I state that a magazine is a time capsule of the time it was written. You go back and you look at old magazines, it's a representation of when it was written, the thoughts and beliefs and the attitudes of the people of that time. And for me, that's what I really want to try to hold on to is, who are we right now? What are our thoughts and ideas right now? Because even 10 years from now, people may still want to see what time was like now. And so it's always going to have a timely quality. And that's one of the reasons why we've pushed forward with the magazine. But it's also an opportunity to really talk about the sort of things that are really not being talked about. And in the digital age, censorship is all too easy. I mean, it's basically like 1984 on crack, that it's easy to go through and change information to be whatever you want because it's digital. But a physical print magazine, it's next to impossible to change the information inside that magazine. So digital censorship cannot touch a physical magazine, which gives us a protection to really say what we need to say and last for the entirety of time.
And do you have them on sale at the moment, Chris?
Yes, you can go to my website, boysmensissues.com. You will find the first issue magazine. Next year, we're going to upload our new digital release, although right now we're offering a donation purchase. If you make a $1 donation, I will send you our newest digital magazine. If you want to make more of a donation, that's welcome. It just goes into making more magazines in the future. I also have our quick reference guide from the Lovely Ladies Calendar, which is kind of similar to my Boys and Men's Issue Handbook. It features facts, it features links where you can find it, and pictures of beautiful women. Unfortunately, my book series will not feature pictures of beautiful women.
I understand. Thank you, Chris. I understand you created a men's rights card. Can you tell us about that?
Not so much a men's rights card, but a male privilege card.
Right.
Now, this was kind of a little joke that I did, but I'm very proud of this because everyone's like, well, check your privilege, check your privilege. Well, here you go. This is how I get to check my privilege because I list so many things of all of the privileges we have as men. It's a little hard to read on here, so I'll just point out a couple. Not recognized as victims of domestic violence, shorter life expectancy, higher rates of suicide, women raping boys seen as a positive. So you can get these on the website as well, actually for rather cheap. So be sure to buy a lot of them. I think you can get, if you go to our Indiegogo site, you can get about 10 of these for $5.
And have you used them yourself?
Well, I always keep them close by just in case, but I've actually, driving rideshare as I have, there's a few people I've talked to about this, and I've given them a male privilege card. There's actually quite a lot of people who still don't know a whole lot, but they're very receptive to what's going on in the men's movement. So I've handed out men's cards as much as I can. And I plan on, for November 19th, just kind of driving around and leaving random cards somewhere around, hoping people see them. You can also see the website right here.
Very good, very good. Chris, can you give me your thoughts on something that is increasingly seen as a men's issue, abortion?
So the issue of abortion, of whether or not it should be banned, outlawed, made illegal, is a very controversial one. And I'm probably one of the few people who will say both yes and no to that answer. The thing with the abortion issue is that there's a lot of emotion that's put into it, and for obvious reasons. We are talking about a life here, but we're also talking about women here. But we have the camp of, well, it's a woman's body. Who has a right to tell anyone what they can do with their body? And having a baby does alter their body quite significantly. But then there are the other people who say it's a life form. It's a baby. It cannot defend itself. And you want to kill it. That's tantamount to murder. I'm here in the middle. And I'm trying to look at this as objectively and logically as I can, trying not to put emotion into it. I understand the emotional responses, but I think this is where we need to talk about the issue. Now, ultimately, I would like to see it banned. I'd like to see this outlawed. I think it's barbaric. I think that it is taking of a life. It's taking away responsibility. But we cannot do it at this time until we resolve two problems: the underage pregnancy rate and the child welfare system. Now, starting with child pregnancy, this really has to deal with sex education in schools. Now, a lot of sex education is about abstinence. The belief that if we don't teach children about sex, and by children I mean teens, I'll do that a lot, but I do mean teens. If we don't teach teens about sex, they won't go and have sex. So let's instead teach them the value of abstinence, about waiting until you're married. Well, unless you're Steven Crowder, abstinence doesn't work. When teenagers hear like, hey, we shouldn't be having sex, well, okay, let's do the thing we're not allowed to do. Let's go and have sex. And not teaching them about how to do things safely leads to unwanted pregnancies. And by extension will lead to abortions or giving children to the foster care system. Now, I'm not saying that we encourage teenagers to have sex, but we really need to teach them everything they need to know. I mean, go ahead and teach abstinence if you want, but teach them, hey, we don't think you should have sex. It's a bad idea to do it. Wait until you're ready. But if you're going to do it, wear a condom, and here are the reasons why. STDs, pregnancies, and what does a pregnancy really do? The other side to this is the child welfare system. Now, if a child is born to a teen mother who's not ready for a child, either that child is going to live in poverty or is going to be given to the child welfare system. The child welfare system is bad. I've seen reports about how bad it is in Australia. I've seen definitely in the United States. Children who grow up in the child welfare system are more likely to become criminals, to become prostitutes, to become teen parents who, again, put their children in the adoption care system, are likely to be abused from foster parents, and are likely to kill people. And this is a funny paradigm that I see, that everyone is so concerned about a baby being born, but the moment a baby is born, we stop caring about the welfare of that child. Well, someone else will take care of it. Well, that child could grow up and kill someone. You're so concerned about protecting the life of the child, but you don't care that that child could grow up and kill someone. You could have prevented the loss of that life through abortion. Again, not saying abortion is necessary, but we need to fix the sex education and the child welfare system. We need to educate teenagers on the dangers of having children and using condoms during sex, and change the child welfare system so if there is a case of parents wanting to give the children to the state, the children will be taken care of. And I mean, we don't really have time today, but there are so many horror stories about the quality of care that children receive within the foster care system, that every year there are missing children. Children just go missing, and it's like we don't pay enough attention to this. So until these two systems are much more improved, and with the child welfare, we'll basically have to tear that down and build it back up. Until sex education and the welfare system are in a much better state, abortion remains a necessary evil. I hate to say that. I know it sounds like I'm condoning it, but if we abolish abortion without fixing either of these two systems, we're going to have a lot more children in the child welfare system. Studies have shown that. And we're going to have a lot more criminals as a result of that.
Yes. No, I take some of your points. I am a pro-lifer, Chris, as you know. We have a couple of speakers on abortion at this conference. Christian Hacking from the Center for Bioethical Reform and Don Loffendale. And I'll be speaking a little bit in my talk as well, because it's my experience that MRAs are pretty poorly informed about what abortion actually is. You know, what are the procedures and how they carried out. And the other, I'd like to pick up on your point about education, because there's an interesting parallel here with the number 2 men's issues on the list, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And that's something I'll be talking about as well. But for those who may not know, this disorder, which results from women drinking alcohol during pregnancy, is the number 1 cause of mental health incapacitation, lifelong incapacitation across the Western world. In the UK, it's estimated that 1 in 6 babies is born, sometimes with physical signs of FASD, sometimes not. I mean, I was reading a paper the other day, which I'll refer to in my speech, which basically suggests that 1 in 6 babies are born with FASD. Now, nobody can say that pregnant women are not told they shouldn't drink alcohol during pregnancy. It's the first thing they're taught, but they do it anyway. And is that not the same problem with the young women? I've got to say, in the UK at least, the number of abortions and teenage pregnancies have come down enormously over recent years, and it's mainly women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. Yeah. So, I mean, so yeah, that's just my thoughts, quick thoughts on those 2 issues.
Well, my quick thought on that is child abuse. And in my book so far, I have written about that issue. And it is child abuse. No matter how you put it, you are damaging that child. And women need to be held accountable. And the greatest injustice of all is that women are not. they are free to drink alcohol while a child is in their body. And that child can be born and have a litany of issues for the rest of their life. And if anything, people will say, oh, how brave is she that she is taking care of such a child? And not once anyone ever saying how awful that she did this to her child.
Well, very, very often, Chris, these women just hand over the babies at birth to basically for the state to look after. It's a huge problem, which is just, nobody is talking about. It's really quite extraordinary. But you're right, it is because women are not held. It is grievous bodily harm. There's no question about it. We had a case recently in the UK where a 21-year-old black guy was convicted of trying to kill a newborn girl by giving her some of his prescription medicines, sodium valproate, which could apparently in some could at in a big dose could have killed her. She was actually fine. She suffered no ill effects. He got 25 years prison sentence for that. Any woman who kills, certainly under babies under 1 year of age in the UK will not even be charged. Whereas a man who tries to do that will get 25 years in prison. So anyway, these tangents sometimes take us off. Chris, can you take us through some of the other things that you've done for the men's rights movement?
Well, beyond the magazines, the books I'm writing, one of my proudest moments was hosting the Red Pill screening in Philadelphia. I lived in Philadelphia for about 18 months, and I'm always trying to find new things to do for the movement. And it was just like I wanted to be a part of the Kickstarter, and I just didn't have any of the money. So I figured this is my way to help out. And it was a great experience because, one, I got all the tickets together and I really marketed out there. But being at the movie theater, they gave me a walkie-talkie, they gave me a tour. I could call up the manager anytime I wanted to get anything we needed. And it's kind of a precursor to what I'm doing now for ICMI, but it was just like, it was so great being such an important person. And that specific Red Pill screening, we had Hannah Wallen come down and speak afterwards to do some Q&A. And then afterwards, we kind of mingled in the theater lobby and just hung out. And that was a really proud moment for me. Another thing I did, which is not really men's rights related, but I also did a Gamergate meetup years prior. I went to a bar that's kind of like a video game bar. They have like Nintendo 64 consoles just laying about with TVs, and you can just pick up a random game and play it. So I thought it would be perfect for a Gamergate meetup. And I met some interesting people through that.
Right. Chris, well, thank you very much. That's been very, very interesting. Thank you for everything that you've done and continue to do for the men's rights movement. Thank you for your work on this ICMI in particular. I know you've put many hours along with Vernon into the software platform, and as you know, we're planning to do another one next year, probably around International Men's Day, November the 19th. So. If you're not thoroughly sick of putting a gazillion hours into online ICMIs, it'd be great to have you helping on that one too.
I'll be honest with you, I was born to do this. I've always been a background guy. Don't get me wrong, I like being front and center and sharing my ideas, but I want to be a part of the process. I want to be a cog in the machine that makes it functional. So I'm actually very happy with the contributions I've made to ICMI, even if the majority of the people won't really know what I've done. And if I do things correctly, you won't ever know what I've done. But trust me, there is a lot of work that goes into these things. And sometimes I just want to pull out my hair. And if you see my other videos, you notice all the hair I had. I just ripped it out. But I do love it. So I will definitely be a part of ICMI as long as you want me.
That's great news. Chris, thank you very much. And it's a wrap.
Thank you, Mike.